Today, Bitcoin is experiencing a really nice rebound. Taking a look at the 1 hour chart, we flipped that previous resistance zone into new support. That support and resistance flip is actually quite significant because there's a lot of previous historic price action from the multi-month top that we created earlier this year. And in my last video, we discussed a potential pullback from that 50,500 level. Today's rebound is making it seem like maybe we won't get a pullback. So we're going to discuss what we need to look out for a continued pump or a potential short-term correction. And last but not least, we have some huge news from Chainlink. Chainlink's price feeds are now live on the Solana DevNet. So we're going to be taking a look at this new update and the Chainlink chart. All of this and more in today's video. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we have a lot to discuss. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, Chainlink, and some new updates. And before we get started, smash up that like button and also hit that big red subscribe button if you're new to this channel. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily chart, I'm looking at the price from the beginning of the year until where we are now. We have the 50-day EMA, the yellow line pulled up on the screen. We have the 21-day EMA, the blue line pulled up on the screen, and we have the green 200-day simple moving average. What you'll notice is that the yellow 50-day EMA has been very instrumental for Bitcoin in the previous trends. It was our support on the way up, and once we were unable to sustain it, we entered this bearish trend, and now we've reclaimed it as new support and already bounced off of it once. And recently, since we broke above 42,000, things have become a little bit more vertical. Instead of Bitcoin interacting with the yellow 50-day EMA and bouncing off of it, we're now bouncing off of the 21-day EMA. We bounced off of it on August 18th, and now that is essentially our support line moving forward. So just a couple things to keep in mind here about these moving averages is that if Bitcoin does continue to maintain the 21-day EMA, then we will probably break out again. If we do at some point come back to retest it and break down, that's when I think we may begin a correction down towards at least the 50-day EMA, maybe even as low as 42,000. So keep your eye on this blue 21-day EMA. That is going to be very key for a continued uptrend. Regardless of what happens, right? Regardless if Bitcoin punches up to 53, pulls back to 42, I think that ultimately this is going to result in a much longer term uptrend, right? I'm actually, bullish either way. It doesn't really matter to me what happens in the short term. If we dip, I'm just going to buy more. And I do expect a longer term uptrend. And if Bitcoin does end up getting into new all-time highs again, right? Which I still think is the most likely scenario. What is the next upside target, and how can we figure out what the next upside target is? Well, remember, in Bitcoin land, the fibs are actually very significant. From low to high, we pulled back to the 618. And as you guys know, in the 2017 bull market, the 618 fib retrace was like the most common level to pull back to on every single run. And we did it once again here, right? That's not really a coincidence. This is because crypto is based on speculation. And people look for these types of targets using the fibs. So for example, this is the 2017 chart, right? This is the 20K peak. Here's our previous parabolic run. If you take your fibs from high to low, right, of this parabolic advance, we went all the way. The next peak came in right along that 2618 fib. That was the target before the pullback. And if you take your fib from that high to the next low, on the next major run up, we came fairly close, but not quite to the 2618. So just as a reference, that's what we're going to use here for the next upside target on the macro trend. So let's go over here again and look at the fibs here in 2021. The 2618 comes in at 123,000 US dollars. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the ultimate peak necessarily. I mean, it could. But my point here is that if we're going to be hitting targets like that on this run as well, we would at least look to make a parabolic advance up to about 124,000. The 2618 is actually about 124,000. So that's the next macro upside target, 124K. Could this be the ultimate peak of the run? It could, but in most previous bull markets, we had, at least more than two, but we had at least 3 parabolic advances, right? We just completed our first 65 down to 30. Now, here's the really interesting thing. You know how Bitcoin always touches the 618 fib retrace on most parabolic runs, right? That's the common downside target. If we do hit the 2618 upside target, what would be the 618 fib on the retrace? Let's take a look. From lowest low, that 30 or 28.8K low, to 24,000 US dollars. This fib retrace, the 618 comes in at 65,000, guys. Exactly that previous high. And again, let me just remind you, this is exactly what happened last time, guys. Here's 2017 once again. After that first parabolic run, if you go from this low to the high, Bitcoin pulls back to exactly the 618 fib retrace, the golden retrace, and that 618 fib comes in where? Along exactly the previous peak price, guys. It's just such classic Bitcoin behavior to follow these fib targets, which is why I definitely give them some weight. So we're looking for a continued run up to 124,000. That's my exact target for the next parabolic advance in this bull market, and a pullback to nearly 65,000 at the 618 fib from 30K to 124K. And then our final blow off top phase, which could lead us, to those $200,000 targets. Maybe we extend up even higher for a brief period of time before the bear market truly begins, right? And this is what I'm looking for. This is how I think it's all going to be playing out moving forward. Remember, guys, we have 3 years until the next halving. 3 years. A lot can happen in 3 years. And I think this is actually a completely reasonable expectation. In the next bear market, we may come back to the levels that we're at right now. Totally possible. So now you guys know exactly what I expect for Bitcoin moving forward. The next major topic here is the Chainlink update. Chainlink price feeds are now live on the Solana DevNet, another huge partnership for Chainlink. Also, if you guys remember, back in April, Chainlink also created a palette for Substrate, Polkadot, and Kusama chains, which gave developers an easy to integrate and time-tested Oracle solution for DeFi apps on Substrate, Polkadot, and Kusama chains. So Chainlink is integrating with the top projects, right, all across the board. We're currently looking at Chainlink from the beginning of the Binance data, and this is back from 2019. For about 2.5 years or so, or over 2.5 years, Chainlink has been riding this beautiful upward sloping channel. And this is on the weekly chart. This is the macro scale. We find resistance right along this upward sloping resistance line, and we tend to find support right along this upward sloping trend line. A beautiful uptrend, guys. It's just it's very consistent. It's very steady. Long-term Chainlink holders are doing fantastic. Now, recently we did have a pretty nasty pullback from $53 all the way down to the low $13 level, but we have now come back up above that $20 2020 peak. And I have this $53 top marked up. I can mark up that $20 top as well, and also this $4.50 top down here from 2019. And what's interesting about the way that Chainlink behaves after breaking its previous all-time highs is that every time it breaks that previous all-time high, it retests this upward sloping trend line. This upward sloping resistance line continuously gets retested every time it gets a break up above that resistance, right? Happened here again after that $20 break. And interestingly enough, we actually tested this top resistance twice, because once we broke above that level, we retested the upward sloping resistance line again. So really interesting price action here for Chainlink. So the point is, it's pretty straightforward, guys. If Chainlink does get some nice sideways action leading back up to that all-time high, of course, if Bitcoin follows this type of a trajectory, then it's very likely that if we break out, just like all those previous moments, we would likely get a test up to this upward sloping resistance line. And of course, it depends on the speed and the velocity of the breakout. It could be anywhere from, $120 all the way up to $200. So the range that I'm looking at is minimum $120 or so, and upwards of $200, right? These are realistic targets, guys. These are realistic targets for this next major up phase in the crypto market. Of course, when you get a real blow off top at the end of a euphoric bull market, you never know how high the price can really go before the bear market begins. We know that things can get a little bit crazy in the crypto market. Stuff like, crazier things have happened in the crypto market, guys. But I'm looking for a conservative $120 to $200 with a potential blow off top into the $300-400 range for Chainlink. And this is really just based off of Chainlink's, previous performance, the way that every time it breaks the previous all-time high, we get a test up to that next touch off the upward sloping resistance. And that is what I'm looking for moving forward. So I hope all of that makes sense for this Chainlink analysis. And also, of course, this Bitcoin prediction that we discussed. Leave a comment or questions below, guys. I want to hear your thoughts on this. And also be sure to join the Patreon, guys. Links are below. We've been getting into some very successful low cap altcoin plays and also mid cap plays. In Patreon, you guys get access to my public portfolio. You can see what I'm holding. You can see the verified blockchain data. I share a lot of opinions in Patreon that I don't share on YouTube. And that is why people join Patreon. So if you want to join, links are below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.